Hey folks, I'm back. Um, Continuing on in our journeys of Rogue Deck Builder. I actually kind of wanted to share something. So this is the kind of thing I'm not sure because this is kind of more of a stream that's about um, I would say design and or making a game studio. It's kind of about programming, but not really as much. It's sort of because I'm trying to go at it from like an entrepreneur angle. So what I wanted to share was things that have been brought to my attention throughout the course of making this particular game, Rogue Deck Builder. So the game that I'm working on is a rogue-like deck builder where you play as a guy who is building his own deck and using post holes, joists, and boards. So I'm kind of expanding this deck. And in the process of that, the neighbors attack me. They don't like me. Um, they want to destroy my deck because it violates the building codes, right? And, probably violates like HOA guidelines, all that stuff, you name it. So that's kind of the premise of the game. It's a bit of a word play. It's a bit of a play on um, just the deck builder genre, right? Typically, it means a card deck, but it can also be a little bit more abstract, as I showed you in the other episode with the game Hades. So when I first started this project, I thought, gosh, I'm so original. There's nobody that has thought of this game, right? Like what a cool concept for a game. Playing on the words of like deck builder, ha ha ha. Well, it turns out I am very wrong about that. Basically, whenever you do any of these things, there's always somebody that thought of your game, and so. But the thing is, like, they might have thought about like one part of your game, but they might not necessarily have thought of your way of interpreting it, right? So I want to show you. I'm going to search for Rogue Light Deck Builder, itch.io. See if I can find it. Yeah, so this just got released, okay, and a bunch of people are talking about it. Rogue Light Deck Builder, okay, and so, like, of course, right? Like somebody of course thought about it, but it's a very, but it's you see the thing is it's a different interpretation, a different, totally different interpretation of the concept. If you look at these screenshots, right? It sort of looks like a horror, almost like a horror game, maybe. I'm not sure. This guy's got a sledgehammer, right? And there's like these boards so he is building a deck, but it's a little bit more like zoomed in. It's kind of like a more detailed view of the deck building, and it's almost like horror because I think you can like smash your hand or something like that. It's like here's the video. Yeah, so you can. Oh God, it's kind of like a comedy game. Um, I don't know. So it's interesting. Um, but you would think, oh, okay, so maybe there's one person that did this, right? Somebody thought of this joke, haha. Actually, no, like this isn't the only person that's thought of this joke. Like, there's actually another person. Hopefully, I can find this deck builder card game. Or I think it was on Board Game Geek. I found this one too. I'm not sure if I'll be able to find it. But there was basically a board game that it was a card game about building a deck. It's not going to be in here. No. Yeah, of course not. It won't be in here. Um, Ascension. Yeah. You'll have to take my word that there was um, a board game about building a deck. So, what is one to do about a situation like this, or what? So, when you go about making things like this, and you're like, you know, what am I? I'm like 2 months into prototyping this thing. There's a lot of, you know, you could easily freak out when you see something like this, right? I think like a lot of people probably would. A lot of people would be like, I mean, a very egotistical person would be like, they stole my idea, which is insane. Um, but I think as you kind of do this more and more, you start to realize that a lot of ideas that you think are really original actually aren't. And it's just the case that the ideas that you think of really are just, you basically don't have free will. I know this comes as like a bit of a shock to some of you, but you think that you have free will. You think that, you think of things like you're the one that's thinking of things, and then you create things by thinking of them. But that's not really what happens. And like most of the thoughts that you have are actually just there because they were out there in your environment and then they just kind of got like soaked into your brain, right? That's like most thoughts. Think of any thought that you have, right? Anything that comes to mind. You know, I when I'm thinking about, some line from like a piece of classical music that I listened to this morning. That immediately comes to my mind, right? It's just because that's what I was doing. Things that are in my mind are just kind of stuff that I was exposed to. It's very like local. So a lot of people will come up with similar ideas for games because they're all exposed to similar things. They're exposed to, hey, like this is a popular genre. There's probably a ton of game developers right now that are just like, yeah, the roguelike deck builder is a popular genre. People want to do that. How could I make a roguelike deck builder? And then it's just a few steps away from that to get to, yeah, isn't that kind of funny? Haha, what if you built a deck? It's like it's not particularly original. None of this stuff really is. You would have to like it's a challenge because you almost have to intentionally expose yourself to something very different from what you would usually expose yourself to. And that's how do you even know to do that, right? Like you have to like somehow control. So you have to find a way to be like weird that is not so weird that um, it's not recognizable, but it's like weird on this edge of where the culture is. And that is the challenge. But I think what I've kind of come to appreciate is, the name of the game is really just one of the hooks of the game, right? And that can be a strong hook. That can be like one good thing to kind of pull people in to want to play the game. But I think that the best games ultimately, they don't just have like one hook. They're like peppered with hooks all over the place, right? Like everything is a hook. And so what I'm kind of thinking is, how do we take this joke and just like bring it to the absolute peak of absurdity, right? And so what I'm trying to aim at is, okay, we have the joke, that's like our entry point, but what if it was like a real roguelike deck builder? Like not in the sense of making just the deck, but like in the sense of the actual game genre itself, right? So it is of the genre while at the same time it does the joke. And so then it kind of cuts both ways, or it sort of becomes more intricate and layered um, as a design, right? So like this, I mean, this will work. This guy probably made some money because it is like a comedy game, and I guess it's all to the point of saying, when you see things like this, you're gonna think that people like copy your stuff all the time. They don't. They're not copying your stuff. What's going on is they're just exposed to the same ideas that you are. They're out there exposed to the same crap. We're all exposed to the same crap, and so they're just, there's really not much that's special about you and the way that you think about things. That's all that different from other people. Maybe slight nuances, but people are basically, they're just thinking of similar things. So this happened when I made my first apps, actually, not that long ago. Skate Dice and Snow Dice. These were like the random trick generator iPhone apps for people that skateboard and snowboard. And when I first thought of the idea, because it was really early in the days of the iPhone. The app just didn't exist, right? So there was no such thing as like I shake my phone and I get a random snowboarding trick, right? I like to think that I invented that, but I didn't invent it. I saw that people were doing this with physical dice out there in the terrain park, and so then I just said, oh, that's cool. Why don't we like make a phone version of that, you know? And so then I made my version, and that was out for a little bit. And sure enough, like there were copycats, right? Um, or people that I thought were copycats. A lot of people making a similar kind of thing. Uh, all that's to say that, so what? You know, I like to think that the thing that set mine apart, my take on that concept, I like to think that what set it apart was the design that went into it. I like to think that mine had a better design, um, and perhaps the sales of it would say something about that. And it's a similar thing. I guess the way that I try to differentiate myself is just by having a better design, because someone's always going to think of your idea, and they're always going to think of like different, similar interpretations on it. They're always going to, this guy, he got the hook, he saw the joke, but um, took it in a very different direction, right? Very, very different direction than the one I would take it. So that's just kind of an interesting thing to say. What you definitely shouldn't do if you've already started a project and you see that somebody is like, oh no, they stole my idea. Like, don't quit. Like, quitting would be a really bad idea, because all that's going to be is a recipe for quitting everything that you start. There's always going to be somebody that's doing something, like taking a similar idea. There's always going to be people taking similar hooks, and that's always going to be the case. And if you let that get you down, then you're just never going to finish anything. So that's my little like Tony Robbins speech for you. Uh, so where were we now with this? So from yesterday, we've made a few different improvements. You'll notice that this menu here is now drawing. So yesterday we just were starting on the side menu. If you'll recall from the previous episodes, we kind of got rid of the concept of the card deck, at least temporarily, and then we replaced it with what I would call essential building actions, which are the post holes, the joists, and the boards. I'm actually going to replace this with panel, because I think that'll be a good first thing to do. And so we now have this concept of energy, right? So maybe I was even thinking maybe something different here, like maybe the currency or the thing you got to do is it's like muscle or like labor or time, because that's almost what it is. It's like maybe it's kind of like a day and night cycle, right? So you build your deck by day, but the neighbors attack it by night, or something like that, right? That was my thinking. So if you think of it as like maybe like daylight hours, you only have so many daylight hours to put in these different parts of your deck, right? Which is kind of goes with like the deck building process, I suppose. You put the post holes down, the joists. They cost like energy or daylight hours, whatever you want to call it. And you only get so many of those per day, right? Before you run out. So that's kind of like a finite resource that you have to use up. And then if I select it, then I'm like, in that mode placing them. Or if I select a joist, then I'm placing it. Or if I select a board, panels, I'm placing that. One thing I really wanted to do also was with these costs, because it costs one of each of these things to do post holes and joists. That could change. This one, actually, I wanted to make it cost a little bit more, and there's a reason why that I will show you. I wanted to maybe make the panels cost like 3. And there's a reason why. It's because if I look at the substructure of this deck here, what I've got are there's a lot of different ways that I can do a panel over a section, right? So one thing I could do is I could instead build like a much larger joisted section. Actually, it's probably better if I just make the rest of this work again, so I'll show you. But basically, the way panels, or the way panels will work, it can go over a larger section, which means that you could get there's like an efficiency that you could gain by creating larger and larger panels. And so I want to like incentivize you to do that. And one of the ways to do that is to make this cost more. So that's kind of a thinking that I'm having there as I work through this. But yeah, the basic logic of hovering over these and being able to select them and go through them, that's all in place now. I can draw them, right? So these essential building actions they're in the game. So now I really just need to make them work, right? And then I need to make it so that this energy bar, it gets consumed as you place things down. And then I also need to make it so that when you use, basically when you're about to use more than you have, you're not allowed. So you're some way of saying like, hey, you don't have enough energy to do this, right? Or enough of, energy is just what I'm calling it, but enough of currency or resource to do this. So that's what I'm gonna do. So with that happening, let's see. So I know which ones are selected. They're hovered or selected. And so I can know if I've got something selected here. All I need to do then is when I select something, I need to switch to that particular building mode, or the building mode that's associated with it. So let's do that, and then I think I need to like make some some changes there. So this all the resources, card select screen. Okay, got all that. Yeah, so this is get the selected card, right? So this is this is the bit of logic that happens when you click on something, right? And then it gets selected. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make it so that you pick that particular building mode. So I'm actually just going to do like an array of those things. Actually, core building. Oh, I already have that. Okay. So, but then I also need to do, I have this other thing called a deck building mode. Yeah, actually, hang on. So I need to convert from that to that. Selected building option. This thing right here. So that's now your selected building option. And then actually I just need to convert that to this other thing that's a, what is it, deck building mode. So the game basically just has, deck building mode. Don't have a lot of those, but they're just kind of like the high level modes of building in the game. So I can do posts, joists, board, panels, turrets. Those are my core options. So and actually these are similar to one another, but I guess I just have different ones there because I guess I wanted to create this distinction that these are essential and these are maybe like other things can put you into that same mode. So just creating that distinction. So I'm just gonna put all those in there because there's some chance that yeah. So what do I call that type? Deck building mode. Next, deck building mode. Just none by default. So then if this is for posts, oh wait, yeah. Yep. Just a bunch of if-else ifs. Because we just want that done. Just want to get this in. I want to turn on the deck building stuff again, and then start to get into the actually like accumulating. Yeah. Oh wait. I have the core building options. Yeah. I am making some mistakes. Okay. I probably could have just used the same type there, but whatever. Not a big deal. Then that's joists. Okay. And then panel, then it's going to be this. So, and then we're just going to like say that that's the current deck building mode. So now when I select these, I should just go straight into that mode, and I should actually start to see the different, yeah, so if I'm in post hole mode, I should see post holes. If I'm in joist mode, I should see joists. Yep. So this is the same stuff that I had earlier, right? Some of these modes, if you pick them, there's not going to be anything to select, so you won't actually be able to do anything, which is okay. Maybe later on, there might need to be some like user interface or something just to say, hey, like you can't actually use this. But right now, I could use this, but I don't want to. I don't want to do this because I don't want to start placing stuff down because I have not yet changed the logic that happens when you trigger that action, right? So I actually don't know what'll happen, and I think like it would start to discard the cards, and if the cards got below a certain amount or a certain amount, then you wouldn't be able to like then it would just go straight into the deck defense phase. So I kind of obviously don't want to do that, so I need to instead make it so that it consumes, so that you pay the cost, right? And then you can see that you pay the cost. So that's what I'm going to do. So I just need to find the place in the code where I do that. So where is that? Let's find it. Okay. I know it's in the update. Actually, this is why I have all these marks. Resource count, process repeatable keys, card select screen. These are all enemy events. Maybe I just didn't actually put that down there. Yeah, so I think obviously, oh no, this is the update loop. Yeah, okay. But I think I have like actual deck building before that. Yeah, I do. Okay. So this is where we actually do some of that ye old deck building. This is just a big function. There's all these functions that are like, okay. So I didn't put a mark down here, which I should. Deck building. So first thing would be like if you're in the joist mode, right? This is like validating whether or not you can actually put a joist down, I think. Yeah, this is validate. There's like joist validation. Can I put a joist down? Oh, no, wait. Okay. Can I put a, like, yeah, can I put a joist down? Validation. Okay, then I think I have like a different one. Maybe all of this is just, okay, so this is, so deck building click action is kind of what this is. But up here is, yeah, deck, I would say deck building validation. So can I put something down, right? And then if you do click, you get the click action stuff. Okay, so this is like basically if I, inside this scope, this is what gets called when I am able to place a post hole down. So this is actually going to place the post hole down onto the map, like adjust all the entities, adjust all the stuff where it goes. This is going to adjust all the collision geometry around that post hole. And then this is the thing that I'm not going to do. Because if I do that, you know, that's an old function that kind of goes back to when I was doing everything with cards. And I'm not doing things with cards anymore. So I'm doing something else. Instead, I am going to, I need to decrement the cost of the post hole resource, right? Of the energy resource. So you can do this, and then what I need to do is like, I need to make it so that part of the validation of can I put this down, right? So part of this like allow placement is also going to be, can you pay the cost, right? If you can't pay the cost, you can't, you know, you got to pay to play. That's basically, that's what we're saying here. You got to pay to play. So if you can pay, then you can play. So first things first, you know, I don't necessarily know what the cost of these things is going to be, right? Energy, I think I called it energy. energy count. Just decrement by 1. So we definitely want to do that. And then here, now what is the, why would I do that? Yeah, I'm going to just make all of these signed just because I don't know, I'm just going to want there to be, I don't necessarily want, it's not that I want you to have negative things, but I want it to be like, to test if it's about to go negative. So that's kind of why, but also like, yeah, greater than equal to 0. Energy count greater than or equal to 0. Then I can place it. Otherwise I can't place it. I'll just be clicking, I'm out of energy. And I don't think for the initial version of this that I'm really going to have the best UX to kind of explain this to people. Like that maybe I'll just have some, I might, you know, this is like they clicked. And then maybe what I can do is I can show something for a little bit right after they clicked saying, hey, this is the reason, you know, or maybe just something pops up that's like no resources, right? Like you're out of energy. That's why you can't do this. Or another thing you can do is that a lot of games will do is a lot of 4X games will do is when you're when there's just no other things that you can do in your turn, right? I've exhausted all of my options. A lot of these games can actually detect that state, and then they can indicate that visually to you by like maybe pointing you in the direction of the end turn button, or just saying like, hey, you should end now because you're out of stuff that you can build, right? You have no more options. So that's another thing that you could do. A lot of different things here. Not going to really pick any solutions to that problem. Just going to kind of put it to the side and say, yeah, that's a problem that we're going to have to deal with at some point. So, and it's going to be a similar thing with joists, right? So if I decide to place it, here's the part where I actually place the joist. And because it also costs energy to place the joist, I'm going to do that. So that's the cost. So we got to pay the cost. And then we also do the validation here. Energy count is greater than 0. It's actually like, you know, compared to puzzle games, compared to making puzzle games, this is like a lot easier. It's like there's just a resource and it's a number, right? And all you got to do is like, you know, if the number, if you don't have any of it, then you can't do the thing. It's like, versus like validating the state of like a tile map in a puzzle game where it's like, yeah, but you know, what if this guy's over here and that guy's over there, and like, you know, all these like second order consequences. I kind of like, it's actually refreshing to pick a different genre where I don't have those same problems. Okay, so, or it just doesn't have to be so, I don't know. So here I need to decrement energy count minus equals 1, right? And then this is the validation up here, right? And so we just add like an extra condition that we check. Can you pay the cost? Can you pay the cost? And of course, like later on, all this is going to get more abstract, a little bit more abstract, not a lot more abstract, but just like a little bit more, because we're going to end up, not everything's going to have the same resource count, right? In fact, like I said, I wanted to make it so that the deck panels, I'll show you why very soon. I wanted to make it so that the deck panels have a slightly higher resource cost. So then at that point, then it's going to be, I'm going to have to kind of start to create more of this abstraction of a cost, because a cost might not necessarily just be one resource. It might be multiple different kinds of resources, and then you're going to have to check against both of those counts in the game state somewhere, right? So, but that's not the case right now because every action just costs the same. But it's going to get more complicated later. And that's when we're going to need that abstraction, just not now. So I'm sort of, like the main character in Dune or whatever, I can kind of see the future, like a little bit, I could see a little bit further ahead, but I don't want to, get too abstract with it just yet because we're not there. So, what do we got? Energy count greater than 0. Okay, so this it should be able to place things, and then I should at least have the validation. So that's kind of what I want to check, and I want to just build it and run it, and then I want to see that the energy count is going down as I build things, and I also want to see that I'm prevented from building stuff when my energy count is 0. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to click on post holes, right? I put a post hole down. Okay, look, I mean, this is not, I think I really need a different font. I should invest, I should invest in like slightly better text, perhaps. That's kind of gross. But you'll see that I place a post hole, and now this is a 6, I promise you. And I can do the same thing with joists. So if I place a joist here, then you'll notice that my energy went down by 1. I can't place boards yet because there's a precondition that for boards or panels. I'm going to change this to panels. So let's just start to kind of panel over this section. Okay, and so I'm running out of post holes. Already, I can tell you just the feeling of playing this is much better than the previous design. And here's why. With the previous design with the cards that were under here, so we used to have cards here. With that design, I noticed that if I just wanted to build like a lot of post holes, or because it's like I already knew what I wanted to do with my deck. I already knew that I wanted to build it in a certain direction, right? But with the cards, I found that I was always having to kind of like switch. I'd pick a card for post hole, and then I would place it. So I'd pick a card and then place, pick a card and then place, pick a card and then place. And then every time I picked that card, it would consume the card, right? And then I got, my post hole down. This is better because it's more like a palette. I can kind of more efficiently and more effectively get through my turn because I can just pick it once, and then I just plop down the ones that I want to do. And then when I want to do something else, I switch to this. So now I'm doing joists, right? And so now I'm in joist mode, and maybe I can pick. So this is definitely going to need some validation here. This also shows that I can place it. So actually one of the things that I will do as a little bit of like user interface, user experience, niceness is to make it so that when I can't pay the cost, and I hover over one of these things, it does not show it as something that I could do. So it wouldn't do it as full opacity, right? It would just stay as kind of like grayed out, as it were, right? That's like, old 90s me kind of speaking here. Because I was a teenager in the 90s. So 90s me is thinking of like those old Windows things where like, you've got stuff grayed out. So that's so what I want to do is just as a basic thing, if you can't pay the cost, then it'll still show you where you could place stuff, but it's not going to, if you hover over it, it's not going to like fill it in completely. So I think that would be a good experience. And then also there's a few other kind of like things that are necessary here for this like cost system. That I haven't quite done yet, but it is shaping up. So we'll do those things. Those are just some things I notice. Yeah. So actually, I'm going to just like commit some of this work. Paying the cost. So you got to pay the cost. You got to pay to play. So we've got validation, deck building validation, right? So this is like what happens when when I'm about to do something and I have to validate whether I can do it or not. This starts with joist mode. So one thing I can do is I can just jump back here and I can, at the very end of this, I can just say, yeah, let's like not even do the validation if you can't pay the cost, right? Energy count greater than or equals 0. So no validation. If so, then you just can't place joists, period. This will eventually be the case with turrets. Turrets are going to be different because they will have a different resource cost. They will cost time or energy in addition to the rock resources that you accumulate through the game. So that'll be different. I don't quite want to. I haven't brought that back in yet, so I'm gonna forget about that. But then also, I think some of this gets handled in the rendering post holes. So debug drawing icon. Rock resource count, player health bar, stat area background, player stats, mouse cursor. Okay, here's all the entities. Oh no, wait. Selected card. Yeah. Oh no. Okay. Yeah, this is actually in it's the update loop. It's in here somewhere. I just gotta find, okay, end turn. Card option sidebar, resource count. Stat area. Okay, here's all the like validation for, yeah. Yep, this is where, okay, what do I call this? Deck building, UI, visual, deck building, visualization. I'm not sure. But so here what we've got is, if you could place it, assuming that you had the resources, then we draw it at half opacity, right? And that's going to be any place where you can put a post hole down. But here is like, hey, if the mouse cursor happens to be hovering over it, and you can also place it, and there isn't already a post hole at that tile, and you can pay the cost, then we'll do a full opacity one. Right. So that's kind of something to do here. With joists, I think it's a similar thing. Like if you can, but yeah, if you can place it or not. I'm less concerned about that one because the joists, they don't necessarily, the game doesn't really tell you where you could place all of them. Although it probably should, if I'm honest. I think that would, at some point, I'm going to have to redo that user experience or that part of it. Because when you're about to place joists, it should really give you some visual indicator of, hey, these are the parts of the deck that you can connect together, right? So maybe like you draw some like half opacity arrows over the top of the different joist points, and you say, and then when you hover your mouse, just like post holes, when you hover your mouse over it, it'll say, it'll become like full opacity. So then you can click on it and you can connect them. I'll probably do that. And then it'll also like show you like which ones you could connect to, right? So once you've got one of them selected, it shows you which one you could connect to next. And then as like a half opacity, just so you know what your options are. Yeah, I hadn't really put that in yet because that's a little bit more of a polished thing. So I'll probably do that later. A lot of this stuff is going to have to be improved upon in order for the game to actually be playable. So playable to somebody without having to explain too much to them. So it can get to a point where it's playable, but I'm sitting next to people and kind of helping them out. That's okay. But I'd like it to get to a point where it's playable and I don't have to be sitting there next to them. So that'll have to happen. Not a big deal though. I'm just gonna not really do a lot of this stuff. Yeah, I'm just gonna not do this yet because it's not really crucial to what we're doing. There's just the one with post holes where I was like, didn't like it. Okay, so now if I just like make a bunch of post holes, right, and I run out of energy, so now I've got 2. What I'm checking is if I switch back to post holes. Oh crap, I didn't build it, did I? Stupid. Okay, I just ran it. Okay, here we go. Build it, run it, post holes, this, 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 this. Nope, still wrong. Did I do something dumb? Oh, you know what I think I did? I think I said like less or like also equal or something. Energy count, yeah. Needs to be greater than 0. Oh, that's why. Actually, oops. Needs to be greater than 0, not greater than or equal. Duh. Wow, that's dumb. I make dumb mistakes. Okay. Here we go. I built it. Post hole. Joist. Perfect. Now it shows me where I could place it, but I can't actually click to place it. And then maybe if I try to do that, it would say like, I just have like some warning over here, like no resource, you're out of energy or something like that. Cool. That's good. So now, let's see. Am I actually able to, so now I kind of have to end my turn, right? So I've ended my turn and now I'm going to defend the deck, right? I got guys coming at me. This guy's coming at me. That guy's coming at me. Okay. I'm skipping that thing. Okay, good. And so now I've got my energy back. So I'm also going to like turn off the card selection screen perhaps. Well, I'm not sure yet. Because that's going to change. It's going to change because there's not going to be any more, I'm not going to be picking like big cards to put in the deck. It's going to be a little bit different. So there will be cards that I pick, but it's going to be, it's not going to be post holes, joists, and bores because those are, remember, they're essential. So we've put them off in a special category. They're essential. The other stuff is going to be put somewhere else. So now I'm gonna just like joist over the rest of this section here. Perfect. And now I've got like 3 energy. And so I can do a board. And a board will fill that in. And so I guess this is what I was trying to get at earlier, right? There are a lot of different ways. Just, again, this is not something that I contrived. This is the truth of the situation. This is just, it's just what's true about this game. I guess it's true of deck building in a more abstract sense, right? Like let's talk about the platonic form of deck building here, right? Because if you really think about it, you have to have rim joists around the deck, right? And you have a choice as to like how as to the area of the deck that you can have with the rim joists. You know, you can rim joist a really small thing off, and then you can joist the interior of it. You know, and then you can panel that over, and you can have like a small little deck, like a little garden box or something like that. You know, anyone could do that, but you could also rim joist a very large section, right? You know, just and then you could fill in the interior of that rim joist uh, with paneling, and then you would have like a really large deck panel, and you'd have supports for it and everything on the inside and whatnot. But that would basically be a very large panel. So you sort of have this choice that you can make in the way that you build your deck, right? You can go for small panels or you can go for large panels, right? And that choice is just true. It's not contrived. It's just like that's the reality of this game. And so then the fact that you can make that choice also means that there's all these like risk reward trade-offs. Because if I decide to risk it and go ahead and build a bigger deck section, then I have to be able to defend that thing while it is under construction, right? And then maybe my reward for defending it while it's under construction is I maybe save some energy, right? Because if this costs more, then I can kind of pump up that risk reward dynamic a little bit more, and I can make that risk reward dynamic, I can bring it a little bit into sharper focus. That's kind of what I'm thinking by making the panels cost more, because then you're going to want to literally conserve energy, right? You want to conserve this resource, and not do panels quite as much. I might even have as another option down here, like a repair option, right? So if a post hole takes damage, you can always spend manpower or labor to repair it. You know, that's another option. And so then that sort of becomes a choice that you have to make as you're playing the game. How much do I want to repair it? Maybe there's some things that you do that like give you a free repair option or action or something, you know. That's perhaps later down the road, but it's just something to think about. So all of that looks like it's good and working. Yeah, and I can keep kind of expanding on my deck. And then I'm back to the next phase. So then I have to end my turn. This all looks like it's working pretty well. So the next thing then is going to be bringing back some of the other stuff that was in the game, right? Bringing back a bit of the other building options. So maybe you have down here or like over here, you have the like turrets or other things that cost resources that you can also build. And maybe you get like 2 or 3 of those cards a turn or something like that. And maybe that is a little bit more randomly generated. But so far, I'm really liking this direction, like where this is going. It definitely feels better to play. I definitely like playing it this way, as opposed to having to pick a card for everything that I do. So basically, at this point, all I'm going to do is I'm going to like start to kind of like basically seal the patient up, finish a few things uh, that would make this a little bit more consistent. So let's see. I'm in a like a deck defense phase right here. There's guys that are coming. Okay. Here we go. There's that guy. There's that guy. He's attacking my deck. No, don't attack my deck. Okay. And I'm just... So yeah, I need to fix this screen basically because this screen has me picking from essential things, and I moved those out, right? So now you shouldn't be able to see these in here. You should really only have things like turrets, other kinds of building options. You know, maybe there's things that you place in the deck that give you more energy, right, per turn, right? So there's a lot of other kinds of cards that need to be put in here, and I need to kind of figure out the design for the other stuff. So that's that. Gosh, it's pretty much top of the hour, so I will, I suppose, end pretty soon. If anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Happy Tuesday. I actually worked on this stream. Sometimes I get so busy explaining things, which is fun, but I don't do a lot of work. I also recognize that this is a bit of a weird time to do a stream. It's the reason I do it is because it's really the only time I can. So, yeah. All right. Well, happy Tuesday. I'll see you next time. It's been fun.